Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving into an article from the Spiritual Seek that explores the connection between spiritual ideals and humanitarian values.
It's an intriguing piece.
It really is. The article explores how we can balance our desire for spiritual fulfillment with the realities of, well, living in a material world.
Yeah, how do we reconcile those two?
Exactly. And you'll be interested to hear how the article connects these seemingly disparate concepts like, our individual human experience and the vastness of the cosmos.
It's a fascinating perspective.
It really is. The piece starts by suggesting that the real division isn't between God and humanity.
Oh, interesting. Where is it then?
Well, it suggests it's within ourselves.
Within ourselves.
Yeah, it introduces this concept of a double personality, right? Contrasting the social self we present to the world with our true inner self.
Oh, I see, like a public face versus a private one.
Right, and the article uses the analogy of an iceberg to illustrate this.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is. So, just like an iceberg, the part of ourselves we show to the world is just the tip.
Right, the part above the water.
Exactly. While a much larger, hidden part lies beneath the surface.
And that hidden part represents?
Our true potential, which can be obscured by, social conditioning and the demands of everyday life.
It makes you think about what's really going on beneath the surface.
Absolutely. And this leads to another point the article makes. Our dissatisfaction with the world and ourselves, it actually points towards a higher aspiration.
So it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right. It's more like a sign that we're capable of more, that we're yearning for something deeper.
A deeper fulfillment, something beyond the material world.
Exactly. The article connects this to the concept of the kingdom of heaven as described in the gospel of Christ.
A realm of perfection, something that transcends our current understanding of reality.
Exactly. And this brings us to what the article calls a paradox.
A paradox?
Yeah, a spiritual goal that is both otherworldly but also connected to our earthly existence.
So how can something be beyond our world and yet somehow influence how we live within it?
It's a great question, right?
It is.
And to answer it, the article dives into Vedantic and Sankhya philosophies.
Okay, I'm familiar with those.
Good. Well, it describes a gradual descent of the ultimate reality, Brahman or Purusha, into the material world.
And this culminates in
the physical reality we experience.
Okay.
The article uses these terms, Anna, Prana, Manas, Vijnana, and Ananda, to describe this descent, referring to them as sheaths or layers of existence.
Interesting.
Yeah. Each term represents a different level of being.
Starting with
the most basic physical needs, Anna, which represents food or physical sustenance.
Okay.
Then it moves through the layers of life force or energy Prana, then mind Manas, intellect Vijnana, and finally Ananda, representing bliss or pure consciousness.
Wow, so it's like a journey through the different layers of our being.
Exactly. And the article argues that by understanding these layers, we can see how our spiritual aspirations are woven into the fabric of our lives.
It's not about escaping the material world, but refining our experience of it.
Precisely.
So then how does the article connect this to our actions in the world, our humanitarian values?
Well, it shifts to an evolutionary perspective. It traces the development of life from its simplest forms to, well, the emergence of human beings.
Ah, okay, so it's looking at the big picture of evolution.
Exactly. And this journey, as the article describes it, highlights a connection between human society and the divine.
Oh, what way?
It suggests that the entire process of evolution, from those first elements to the development of complex organisms, is a movement towards greater consciousness and complexity.
Culminating in us.
Yes.
Okay.
In beings capable of self-awareness and spiritual reflection.
So we're not just products of a random process, but part of a grand design.
That's the idea the article puts forward, a purposeful unfolding of consciousness that connects us to something much greater than ourselves.
And to further emphasize this connection, the article uses a striking image, the Viratsvarupa.
Could you explain what that term means?
Sure. Viratsvarupa is a Sanskrit term that literally translates to universal form. It refers to a vision described in Hindu scriptures where the universe is depicted as the body of a cosmic being.
I see.
And in this vision, the earth is portrayed as the footstool of this cosmic being.
So even the seemingly mundane aspects of our physical world are connected to a higher order.
Exactly. It's a reminder that the spiritual and the material aren't separate realms, but rather interconnected aspects of a single reality. It really makes you think about how we view the world around us, doesn't it?
It does. And how our actions reflect that understanding. The article also talks about otherworldliness in relation to our spiritual aspirations.
Okay.
It acknowledges that our spiritual goals, they often seem to point towards something that, well, transcends our current understanding of reality.
Right, like something beyond our grasp.
Exactly. But it suggests that while our ultimate aim might be otherworldly, the path to getting there lies within our lived experiences.
So it's not about escaping the world, but more about changing how we relate to it.
That's it. The article emphasizes that true spiritual growth involves, integrating our aspirations with our actions. It's about living our values in our daily lives.
That makes sense. It's about finding that connection between our inner world and our outer actions.
Right. And that reminds me of a point the article makes about finding fulfillment. It argues that, well, true fulfillment can't be found in material possessions or achievements.
Yeah, that's a common misconception, isn't it? That happiness comes from what we have or what we achieve.
Exactly. The article critiques this idea. It suggests that lasting fulfillment comes from a deeper connection with ourselves, a connection that goes beyond, the fleeting nature of material things.
It's about finding that inner peace and contentment, that sense of connection with something greater than ourselves.
Right. And this aligns with a lot of spiritual traditions, doesn't it? The ones that emphasize inner peace over external gratification.
Absolutely. It's about shifting our focus from chasing happiness outside to cultivating it within.
Exactly. And this shift in focus, it can be really profound, It challenges us to re-examine our values and, well, consider where we are putting our energy and attention.
It's like taking stock of our lives and asking ourselves, what truly matters?
Yes. And speaking of taking stock, the article provides a compelling perspective on the concept of evolution.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, it suggests that the entire process, from the simplest elements to the emergence of humans, signifies a deep connection between humanity and the divine.
So it's seeing evolution as a spiritual journey.
In a way, yes. The article frames it as a movement towards greater consciousness.
That's a fascinating perspective.
It is. The article proposes that the development of life, from its most basic forms to us, represents a progression toward greater awareness and understanding.
So it's not just a random series of events, but a purposeful movement towards something more.
That's what the article suggests. This perspective suggests that the emergence of humanity is not just a random occurrence, but a purposeful step in a grander scheme.
It makes you feel like we have a unique role to play in this unfolding of consciousness.
It does. The article implies that we as humans carry the potential for a level of consciousness and spiritual understanding that's, unique in the natural world.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it, to think that we have this potential within us?
It is humbling.
Yeah.
But it's also inspiring, It encourages us to reflect on our place in the vast web of life.
And to consider how we use this potential, how our actions reflect this understanding.
Exactly. The article suggests that our position in the evolutionary chain, it comes with a responsibility to act in ways that reflect this understanding.
So it's not just about our own spiritual growth, but about how we contribute to the well-being of all beings.
That's a key point. This perspective could inform our approach to humanitarian values, prompting us to treat all beings with compassion and care.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our actions have an impact on the whole.
Exactly. The article underscores the importance of recognizing the inherent dignity and worth of all beings, not just humanity, but as fellow travelers on this journey.
We're all in this together. And to illustrate this interconnectedness, the article uses a striking image, the Viratsvarupa.
Right, we touched on that earlier. Can you remind our listeners what that represents?
Of course. The Viratsvarupa is a vision where the Earth is depicted as the footstool of a cosmic being.
It's a powerful image. What does it convey about our relationship to the divine?
It serves as a reminder that the divine is present not just in, spiritual realms, but also in the physical world, even in the seemingly insignificant aspects of our everyday lives.
So it's challenging that idea of a separation between the sacred and the profane.
Exactly. It suggests that the divine permeates all aspects of existence. The article encourages us to cultivate a sense of reverence for all of creation, recognizing the inherent sacredness of the world around us.
That's a beautiful thought. And it has implications for how we treat our planet, doesn't it? And all its inhabitants.
Absolutely. It highlights the importance of living in harmony with nature, recognizing that our well-being is intrinsically linked to the well-being of the planet. We're all part of this delicate balance.
We are, and the article also revisits that concept of otherworldliness that we talked about earlier, in relation to our spiritual goals.
Right.
It acknowledges that our aspirations often seem to point toward something, well, beyond this world, but it emphasizes the importance of connecting those aspirations with our earthly existence.
So how do we bridge that gap between our desire for transcendence and our immersion in the material world?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is, and how does the article address it?
Well, it explores this tension, this seeming paradox. It suggests that while our ultimate goal may lie beyond the confines of this realm, the path towards that goal unfolds through our actions and experiences in the here and now.
So it's not about escaping the world, but about finding ways to integrate our spiritual aspirations into our daily lives.
Precisely. The article emphasizes that our spiritual grave isn't separate from our worldly experience, but rather intertwined with it.
It's about finding the sacred within the mundane, isn't it? Connecting our spiritual understanding with our actions in the world.
Exactly. The article also discusses the concept of the descent of reality, using terminology from Vedantic and Sankhya philosophies. It mentions terms like Brahman, Ishvara, Hiranyagarbha, and Virat to describe this process.
Those are some complex concepts. Can you break those down for our listeners? How do they relate to the connection between the spiritual and material realms?
Sure. These terms, they originate from ancient Indian philosophical systems, and they provide a framework for understanding the emergence of the universe from the ultimate source.
Okay.
So in Vedanta, Brahman refers to the absolute, unmanifest ground of all existence. It's the ultimate reality that transcends all definitions and forms.
It's the source of everything, the ultimate reality from which all things arise.
Exactly. And then there's Ishvara.
Right.
And Ishvara is the concept of God as the creator, the conscious principle that brings the universe into being. It's the manifestation of Brahman as well as the creative force behind the cosmos.
Okay, so Brahman is the source, and Ishvara is the creative force that brings the universe into existence. What about Hiranyagarbha?
Hiranyagarbha means golden womb or cosmic egg. It signifies the primordial state of the universe, the starting point of creation.
I see.
It represents the stage where the potential for all forms and beings exists, but it's not yet manifest.
So it's like a blueprint containing the seeds of all that is waiting to unfold.
That's a good way to put it. And then we have Virat.
Right.
And Virat refers to the universal form. It's the manifestation of the cosmos in its totality. It's the culmination of the creative process, where all the potential within Hiranyagarbha is fully realized.
So these terms describe a process of emanation, a gradual unfolding of the ultimate reality into the diverse forms and beings that make up the universe.
Exactly. And by understanding this process, we can see that the material world, including us and all other beings, it's not separate from the divine, but rather an expression of it.
It's a profound shift in perspective, isn't it? To see the material world not as something to be transcended, but as a manifestation of the divine.
It is. And this shift can inspire us to act with greater compassion and care for the world around us.
It's about recognizing the sacredness in everything we encounter.
Exactly. The article challenges us to move away from the idea that the material world is something to be, transcended or escaped from.
Right.
It encourages us to see the material world as a manifestation of the divine, something to be respected and cherished.
That's a beautiful way to look at it. It's about finding the divine spark in everything.
It is. And the article emphasizes the importance of recognizing that divine essence, not just in humanity, but in all aspects of creation.
It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things, isn't it?
It is. The article challenges that notion of a hierarchy of value within creation, suggesting that, this view is a product of our limited perception.
So we shouldn't see ourselves as superior to other forms of life?
That's the idea. The article suggests that we should recognize the inherent worth and dignity of all beings, regardless of their place in the supposed hierarchy.
It's about expanding our circle of compassion to include all of creation.
Exactly. The article emphasizes that even those aspects of creation that we might consider, lower or mundane, they're still expressions of that same divine source that gives rise to all things.
It's a reminder that there's beauty and sacredness in everything, even in the things we might take for granted.
It is. It encourages us to view the world with a sense of awe and wonder.
To appreciate the intricate web of life that connects us all.
Exactly. And the article also emphasizes the importance of personal experience and inner transformation in bridging the gap between spiritual ideals and social values.
So it's not just about understanding these concepts intellectually, but about embodying them in our lives.
Right. It suggests that intellectual understanding alone isn't enough. True transformation comes from, well, from direct experience and the cultivation of virtues like, compassion, kindness, and wisdom.
It's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
That's it. The article encourages us to embody our spiritual values in our daily lives, to make them a living reality.
To let our actions speak louder than words.
Exactly. The article suggests that we are active participants in our own transformation, not passive recipients of some external force.
We have the power to shape our own spiritual journey.
We do. The article encourages practices that cultivate self-awareness, compassion, and ethical conduct. And these qualities, they're essential for bridging the gap between our aspirations and our actions.
They help us to live in alignment with our values.
They do. And this focus on personal growth, it aligns with the concept of humanitarian values.
Because as we cultivate these inner qualities, we naturally become more inclined to act in ways that benefit others.
Right. The article highlights the interconnectedness between our inner world and our outer actions.
It's like ripples spreading out from a stone dropped in a pond. As we transform ourselves, we contribute to the transformation of the world around us.
That's a powerful image. The article also touches on the idea that true fulfillment and, well, lasting happiness can't be found solely in external achievements or possessions.
Right, it's not about what we have, but about who we are.
Exactly. The article challenges the idea that happiness is primarily derived from, external sources. It suggests that those things can provide temporary pleasure, but not the deep and lasting fulfillment that we truly seek.
It's about finding a deeper source of joy that doesn't depend on external circumstances.
That's it. The article encourages us to look inward for true happiness. It suggests that our spiritual aspirations aren't about escaping the world or, denying ourselves pleasures. It's about finding a deeper source of joy and fulfillment that's not dependent on external factors.
So it's not about deprivation, but about finding a more lasting and meaningful kind of happiness.
Exactly. And this perspective, it can be really liberating. It frees us from that constant pursuit of external validation.
It allows us to find contentment within ourselves, regardless of our external circumstances.
It does. Now, as we approach the end of this second part of our deep dive, what are some of the key takeaways we can highlight for our listeners?
Well, one of the most important takeaways is this understanding that the separation we often perceive between the spiritual and the material, the individual and the divine, it's largely an illusion. It's created by our limited perception.
Right. The article encourages us to recognize the interconnectedness of all things.
And this recognition, it can inspire a profound shift in our perspective. It can lead us to approach life with greater reverence, compassion, and a deep sense of responsibility for the well-being of all beings.
It's about seeing the world through new eyes, recognizing the sacredness in everything around us.
Exactly. The article also emphasizes personal transformation as a key to bridging the gap between our spiritual aspirations and our actions. Cultivating inner qualities like kindness, compassion, and integrity, well, it naturally leads us to act in ways that reflect those values.
It's about letting our inner light shine through our actions.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And it's a continuous process, this journey of growth and refinement. It involves both introspection and, engagement with the world.
We have to cultivate our inner world while also taking action in the outer world.
Right. And the article's exploration of those philosophical concepts like the five sheaths and the descent of reality, it offers a framework for understanding the layered nature of our being and the connection between the spiritual and material realms.
It gives us a deep understanding of how the universe unfolds, how we fit into that grand scheme of things.
And ultimately, it reminds us that integrating our spiritual ideals with our humanitarian values is a continuous journey.
It's a journey that we're all on together.
We're all fellow travelers, supporting and inspiring each other along the way. It's a journey of both individual and collective transformation, isn't it?
It is. And, the article also pointed out that intellectual discussions or scriptural studies, eloquent speeches even, they're valuable, but they won't fully satisfy our longing for fulfillment.
Right. It's not just about knowing the concepts, but about living them.
Exactly. The article emphasizes that true transformation goes beyond intellectual understanding. It involves direct experience, inner work, and cultivating virtues like compassion, kindness, wisdom.
It's about embodying those spiritual ideals, not just talking about them. walking the walk, as they say.
That's a good way to put it. The article suggests that our spiritual journey is a process of inner transformation, of refining our character and aligning our actions with our deepest values.
It's an ongoing process of growth and self-discovery.
It is, and it underscores the importance of personal responsibility and self-reflection. We're not passive recipients of some external force. We're active participants in our transformation.
We have the power to shape our own spiritual journey.
We do. The article encourages practices that cultivate self-awareness, compassion, and ethical conduct.
Those are essential qualities for bridging the gap between our aspirations and our actions, aren't they?
They are. They help us live in alignment with our values. And this focus on personal growth aligns with the concept of humanitarian values.
Because as we cultivate these inner qualities, we naturally become more inclined to act in ways that benefit others.
Right. The article highlights that interconnectedness, between our inner world and our outer actions.
As we transform ourselves, we contribute to the transformation of the world around us. It's a ripple effect.
It is. The article also challenges the idea that lasting happiness can be found solely in external achievements or possessions.
It's a common belief in our society, isn't it? That happiness comes from what we have or what we achieve.
It is. But the article critiques that notion. It suggests that those things, they offer temporary pleasure, but not deep, lasting fulfillment.
They don't address the deeper longing within us.
Exactly. The article suggests that true happiness comes from within, from aligning our lives with something that gives us purpose and meaning beyond material gain or social recognition.
It's about connecting with something larger than ourselves, finding a sense of purpose that transcends our ego-driven desires.
Right. This perspective, it shifts our focus from external validation to cultivating a sense of inner peace and contentment, regardless of our circumstances.
It's about finding that stillness within, that unshakable peace that doesn't depend on external conditions.
It is. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the connection between spiritual ideals and humanitarian values. We talked about the concept of the double personality, the evolutionary journey, the layered nature of our being, the descent of reality, and the importance of personal transformation.
It's been a rich and multifaceted exploration.
It has. So as we wrap up, what are some essential insights for our listeners to consider as they reflect on these ideas?
Well, I think one of the most important takeaways is that the separation we often feel between the spiritual and material, between ourselves and the divine, it's largely an illusion. It's a product of our limited perception. The article encourages us to see beyond those artificial boundaries and embrace the interconnectedness of all things.
To recognize that we're all part of this grand interconnected web of life.
Exactly. And this understanding, it can inspire a shift in our perspective, leading us to approach life with more reverence, compassion, and responsibility for all beings.
It's about seeing the world with new eyes, appreciating the sacredness of all creation.
Absolutely. The article also emphasized that personal transformation is key to aligning our actions with our spiritual aspirations. Cultivating inner qualities like kindness, compassion, and integrity, it naturally leads us to act in ways that reflect those values.
It's about letting our inner light shine through our actions.
It's a beautiful way to put it, and it's an ongoing process, this journey of growth and refinement. It involves both introspection and engagement with the world.
We have to cultivate our inner world while also taking action in the outer world.
Exactly. And the article's exploration of those philosophical concepts, like the 5 sheaths and the descent of reality, they offer a framework for understanding the layered nature of our being and the connection between the spiritual and material realms.
It gives us a deeper understanding of how the universe unfolds, how we fit into that grand scheme of things. And ultimately, I think this deep dive reminds us that integrating our spiritual ideals with our humanitarian values is a continuous journey.
It's a journey of growth, discovery, and refinement.
And it's a journey we undertake together, supporting and inspiring each other along the way.
We're all fellow travelers on this path.
We are. And on that note, we'd like to thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Spiritual Seek's exploration of the relationship between spiritual ideals and humanitarian values. We hope this exploration has encouraged you to contemplate your own place in this grand tapestry of existence and consider how you might contribute to a more just, compassionate, and fulfilling world for everyone.